So here's where we are schedule wise. We talked about CTF for a long time now. We've transitioned back into the introduction of the command line interface course. So as a reminder, we did several workshops on this course back in 2020, and those workshops are all in our YouTube channel. So for the first several modules of the command line introduction to the command line interface course, you can look at our YouTube channel and look up the CLI playlist and you'll find them there. Last week we talked about the Nano text editor, and so Nano is a terminal, is a command line text editor, and today we're going to talk about the VI text editor. So we're going to do the first of a couple of workshops on the VI text editor. So you'll get introduced to another command line text editor, and you might have some questions about why you would use one or the other, and I'll briefly answer that in the coming slides. One question that was in the chat last time that I missed because I was in a hurry was, why don't we just use mouse pad or leaf pad? Why do we need to use these terminal command line editors? So let me talk to that briefly. To do that, I'm going to bring up a couple of different virtual machines, and hopefully from this you'll see why we need to understand how to use terminal-based text editors. First virtual machine I'm going to bring up is a Ubuntu desktop environment. So here is my Ubuntu desktop, and here I have the full power of the desktop, right? I can go to my applications menu, and I can go to the accessories tab, and I can pull up Mousepad. And Mousepad is a text editor that looks like kind of like Notepad, right? It's the knockoff of Windows Notepad. I don't know, maybe a precursor to Notepad, but it gives you sort of the traditional menu-based GUI environment, right? I can edit files, I can open, close, save files from the menu, I can do search and replace, I can cut, paste, etc. So this is how many people would edit files when you're using a GUI desktop environment like this Ubuntu desktop, right? Now, that's great for when you have a desktop environment, but as I mentioned last time, you don't always have a desktop environment, right? Sometimes you just have a terminal. So the other virtual machine in this particular environment I'm going to pull up is an Ubuntu terminal. And when I open up the Ubuntu terminal, you'll see that here I am at the terminal, and there's no menu up here, right? I can't go to the applications menu and do a drop down and select Mousepad. I could type Mousepad at the command line, but it wouldn't do anything because there's no Mousepad, right? There's no way to open a GUI environment when all you have is a terminal. And so that's why we're talking about terminal-based text editors. And the one we talked about last week was Nano, right? So with Nano, I can edit files from the command line, from a terminal window, and I get this same environment that we saw last week when I talked about Nano. And if you didn't, if you weren't here, then you can take a look at that in our YouTube channel. So now the other question is, well, can I use Nano if I'm on the desktop? And turns out that yes, you can use Nano when you're at the desktop. How do you do that? Well, you open up a terminal window, and now I have a terminal. And now I can type Nano, and now here I am editing a file, right? So why would I use Nano if I have a desktop environment? Well, I might do that because then if I just use Nano, then I know Nano works on it when I have a desktop, or I know Nano works when I have a terminal, and so I can use Nano everywhere. I don't need to use Mousepad. Only I don't need to. Here I have to be able to use the mouse and do stuff, and I have to move my hands around. With Nano, all I need is the keyboard, right? I have access to all the commands I need. I can open files, save files. I can search and replace things. I can do everything I need to do right from the keyboard, and don't have to mess with any terminal or any moving the mouse around to find the file system or the menu or any of that. So so this is why we learn how to use terminal based text editors, because you don't always have a GUI environment to do your text editing. And last week we talked about the Nano text editor, which is a great, easy to use terminal based text editor. And for beginners using a terminal environment, lots of people sort of gravitate to Nano because it's the beginner friendly tool. This week we're going to talk about VI, and VI is a more powerful environment. Easy, it's a much more efficient environment because you don't have to move your hands around as much to do stuff. You don't have to hold down the control key to do things, but it's a little bit less intuitive to use. And you'll see that with this first discussion of VI. You're gonna see that it's not very intuitive. And so the people who use VI are people who use the command line or who use a terminal window, fairly often. So if I'm using, if I'm a person who uses a Linux environment, if I'm editing files in Linux every day, I might be a VI user. If I only edit files at the terminal once in a while, then maybe I use Nano, because Nano is very easy to use and gives you that simple, easy menu across the bottom. Personally, I'm a VI user. I use it all the time. I even use it when I have a desktop environment, right? I use VI in Linux to edit files because it just works, and I can SSH to different systems, and I can use VI, and it doesn't matter if I have a desktop or not. VI is always going to work. VI is always there, right? So last time I talked a little bit about Nano as a text editor that's often installed on devices that I might SSH into. It's not always there though, right? Nano has to be installed by the person who set up the operating system. And if the person is not a Nano user, if the system administrator is not a Nano user, then why would they install Nano on the system, right? And it's much more likely that an experienced system administrator is going to be a VI person, not a Nano person. So if you're setting up the environment yourself, you're probably going to install Nano if you want Nano to be there. If you're using one of our Virginia Cyber Range exercise environments that's a terminal window only, then Nano is going to be there for you, because I mentioned that it's beginner friendly, and we try to be beginner friendly. But if you're SSHing into a device that is managed and maintained by somebody who's a sysadmin, professional sysadmin, Nano is it's very likely that Nano is not going to be there, again, because the sysadmin probably doesn't use it, and if he or she doesn't use it, then why would they install it, right? But VI is going to be there essentially all the time. It doesn't have to be installed. It's part of the basic toolkit that comes with most Linux distributions, and it's just going to be there. So VI is a good fallback, a good editor to learn for a variety of different reasons. Okay, so this again, this content comes from Matthew Vogel, who's a faculty member at Tidewater Community College, and this content, these slides that I'm showing you, are all in the CyberRange courseware repository. Just go into the Virginia CyberRange or US CyberRange courseware and search for Introduction to the Command Line Interface, and this is all part of Module F. So last time we talked about Nano, now we're going to talk about using VI, and we're going to talk about part 1 here. So VI part 1. So what we're going to do here is we're going to understand the basics just to get started using VI, and we're going to see how to open a file, how to save a file, and so it's essentially the basics, right? And I encourage you to try this out, right? If you're not able to try it out with me, then you should try it out later on. You might download these slides. You might spin up a Linux system in the CyberRange or your local terminal window, and do some of this hands-on with VI, especially if you've never used it before. But once you sort of learn it, then it all becomes second nature, like anything else, right? So I had to learn VI years ago, and now it's just sort of second nature. So some of this sort of echoes what we talked about last week, right? Editing files from the CLI is important. You might not always have a GUI available. VI is a very powerful text editor, and it comes installed out of the box on almost every Linux distro. Just like Nano, when VI is running, it takes over the command line interface, so you're only able to type in VI. VI has an improved version called Vim, which stands for VI improved. Turns out that most Linux systems come with Vim, and to start, and so this is what it looks like: Vim VI improved. And actually, even when you start VI at the command line on most Linux distros, you're actually starting Vim, right? This is just what's going to open up when you type VI and start using it. So this is what it looks like, and we'll see more of it here in a minute. So the easiest way to start VI is just typing VI and pressing the enter key, right? Type VI and press the enter key. That's the extent of the command. If VI is installed, it will start with a blank file. If the Linux system has Vim installed, you can type Vim. VI is usually an alias for Vim, so if you type VI, you'll probably start Vim, as I already mentioned. You can also start VI and open a file at the same time using the syntax shown here, right? So I can type VI space file name, and that file is going to open in VI. If no file of that name exists, then a new file is created with that name. So that's kind of handy, right? You can create a new file and you name it right there when you open VI, and then you don't have to figure out how to save it later, which if you don't know how to use VI very well, then figuring out how to save it, you'll see that it's not super intuitive. I'll show you how to do it, but it maybe isn't super intuitive. And just like Nano, if you're going to use VI to edit a configuration file, you need to have root privileges, so you have to use sudo. Okay, so let me show you just what I talked about here, right? So so I'm in the same folder that I was in last time. So I had this test file when I was doing the Nano session last week. I created this temp file, and here's what it looks like. It's got some sort of random text in it. And so I can start VI. So like that slide mentioned, I can just start VI, and here it is. Here's my new file, empty file. And if I were to enter data in this file, then I could save it, and we'll talk about how to save stuff later on. So that's one way to start VI. I can also start it with the name of an existing file, right? So I can type VI temp file.txt. And it's going to open that file, right? So here's the file that has the stuff in it. And I can move around the file. I can edit the file. And when I'm done, I can save the file. And we'll talk about how to do that later. In this case, I'm not going to do anything with it. And then the third thing I can do is I can start a new file. So if I typed in temp file2.txt, that's going to create a new file, and the file you can see down here in the lower left-hand corner, it's temp file2.txt. It's a new file, right? So I can start adding content to this file, and then when I save it, the new file has that file name already, temp file2.txt. Not going to do that either, and since I didn't put anything in the file, it didn't create a new file. If I would have entered something and saved it, then there would be new stuff in there. Okay, so that's how you start VI. So that's the easy part, right? It's harder from here. So VI has different modes, 5 different modes, and depending on what key you press at what time, that'll take you into a different mode. And again, it's a little bit confusing, but I'm going to try to make it straightforward. So the basic mode is VI mode, right? When you first start up VI, you're in VI mode. And then the next mode here listed as insert mode. So in insert mode, that's when I type text into a file. That's when I'm creating the text that is a file. That's a different mode in VI, right? So if I had just started typing from where I was when I first started VI, the keys that I press wouldn't cause any text to be inserted into the file because I wasn't in insert mode. And I'll show you how to go to insert mode here in a minute. There's also this thing called replace mode, right? So instead of inserting text, I might want to replace text. I might want to just type over what's already in there. So I can enter what's called replace mode. And then there's this thing called X command mode. And there's search mode. Today, we're going to focus on insert mode and the replace mode. And I'm not sure we'll talk much about the other modes, but we're gonna try to stick to the basics. And for the most part, if you're using VI, what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to start VI, you have to be able to insert text, and then you have to be able to save files. You might have to be able to search for things. That's helpful to be able to search for things. And then it's helpful to be able to replace stuff over the top of existing stuff. And so there's 3 or 4 basic things that you have to be able to do with VI. And the rest of it is just gravy, right? The rest of it are just features that you may or may not ever use, right? And so we're going to focus today on most of the stuff that's kind of the baseline. Here are the things that I need to be able to use VI to do. And if you're able to follow along with me and you do a little bit of practice, right? VI might take a little bit of practice to kind of do the right thing at the right time, but you'll see that once you play with it a little bit, it'll be pretty straightforward. Okay, so VI starts in VI mode by default, and it will respond to commands that are typed by placing characters in the file. You can enter VI mode at any time from another mode by pressing the escape key, right? So you start in VI mode when you start VI, and to go to any other mode, you have to be in VI mode, the basic mode that you start with. And to get there, you have to press escape. So that helps. That's pretty helpful, right? If you're not sure what mode you're in, if you press escape, you'll go back to VI mode. And VI mode is where you should start to do anything that you're going to do. Okay, and then here's the other critical thing that I need to be able to do, right? I need to be able to insert text. And so I have to be able to go into insert mode. And that's really easy. When I'm in VI mode, I just hit the I key for insert. And you'll see when I do that, you'll see that insert will show up in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. And so I know that I'm in insert mode because it's going to tell me in the lower left-hand corner. So I start VI, I type the I key on the keyboard that takes me into insert mode, and I'll be able to see that I'm in insert mode. And once I'm in insert mode, I can type stuff. And then how do I get out of insert mode? Back to VI mode. Remember, the way to get out of any mode and go back to VI mode is you type the escape key, which is in the upper left-hand corner of your standard keyboard. Right. And in fact, before you hear this last bullet is kind of helpful. It's always useful to press the escape key before entering any other VI mode, because then you know you're in VI mode, right? You're sure that you're not in some other mode, right? So almost, before you start, even if you think you're in VI mode, it's not a bad idea to hit escape just to make sure, and then wherever you are, you'll end up back in VI mode. Okay, so hopefully that is not completely confusing. And I'm going to do some of this and show it to you. And again, I encourage you to either follow along or to do this later when this recording is done. Then you can pause it and do stuff, then come back to it. Okay, so I'm gonna create this file, temp file 2. Right now, there's all there is the temp file.txt. I'm gonna create this file called temp file 2. So vi temp file 2.txt. And okay, now I'm in VI mode, right? I just entered VI. I'm in VI mode, and now I want to insert text. And how do I do that? Press the I key. And when I press the I key, you see down here in the lower left-hand corner, it says insert. So now I'm in insert mode, right? So now I can start inserting stuff. And so now I can start typing, right? This is my second text file. Here is some more stuff. Line 3, line 4. Okay, so now I've inserted some text, right? And now I want to go back to VI mode, because it turns out I can't even save that. The only thing I can do in insert mode is I can insert stuff. So if I'm typing, I'm inserting. If I hit control, whatever, it's going to insert characters in here. And there's no way to save anything when I'm in insert mode. So the way I would save something is I would have to go back to VI mode before I could save the file. And how do I go back to VI mode? I press the escape key. And when I do that, now if I type at the keyboard, I'm not typing text anymore. Well, somehow I got back in insert mode because I actually hit the I key, but if I'm typing stuff, the text isn't going to come out on the screen because I'm not in the right mode to insert text. Okay, so now I've hit I, and I was in insert mode. I typed in some stuff, then I hit the escape key, and that took me out of insert mode back into VI mode. Okay, there's another mode called replace mode, and this is super straightforward, right? It's just it works just like insert mode, except instead of pressing the I key, I press the R key from VI mode, and now I'm replacing text instead of inserting text. Okay, so if I go back to my thing here, so what does it mean to replace versus insert? Well, here I'm in VI mode, I'm going to hit escape, and I'm in VI mode. If I hit I for insert, then I type things, I'm inserting, right? Now I'm going to escape. I hit escape. Now I'm in VI mode. I'm going to press R. Now, if I start typing, what I just did was whoops, what did I do? Oh, I'm sorry, it's a capital R. I pressed the lowercase r. So I'm in insert mode. So I'm going to go, okay, now I'm going to go into insert mode, right? I hit capital R, so I'm in replace mode. So now when I start typing, it replaces the text, right? It types over the top of it. And if I were to line up here and start typing again, it's gonna replace instead of insert. So that's the difference. And then how do I get out of replace mode? I hit the escape key, and that takes me back into VI mode. I don't use replace mode very often. I usually use VI. I usually use insert mode, and I'll delete stuff and insert stuff from insert mode, and that is a little bit more natural for me. It sort of behaves like Notepad generally behaves. Okay, then there's the X command mode. That's used for writing files, opening files, and searching and replacing, right? So X command mode is reached by pressing the colon character in VI mode. So again, I always start in VI mode. So first thing I might do is press escape, make sure I'm in VI mode. And I press the colon character, and that colon character is going to show up in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. And then I can use different commands to save and open files, save files, exit VI, etc. The way I leave X command mode and return to VI mode is I use the escape key. Okay, so let me talk about some of the. So I'm going to talk about search mode, but first let me talk about some of the X commands. So here's how I open a file from within VI, right? If I'm already in VI and I want to open a file, then I go to X command mode. And the way I do that is I press the colon key, and then I type O and then the name of the file. So I can open a file from within VI. Now, personally, I rarely do that. If I'm going to start a new file, I go to the terminal window, the command line, I type in VI and the file name, and then I start the new file and I save it. If I'm going to edit an existing file, then I go to the file, then I go to the command line, I type in VI, the name of the existing file, and I edit the file, right? So it's pretty rare that I use the O command to open a file from VI, but you can do that. That's a thing. Here's the important one that you have to be able to do. You have to be able to save your file, right? So the X command control or colon W is used to write the changes to a file. So if I do colon W and then the file name, it's going to write to a new file. If I already named the file, then I don't have to put in a file name. I just do colon W and hit enter, and it's going to get saved to that file that I already opened. Right. So here I am in my file, and I'm in VI mode. I'll hit escape just to make sure that I'm in VI mode. Okay, now I want to write this file. So I hit colon. That takes me to X command mode. So if you see down here in the lower left-hand corner, there's the colon that comes up. And then I'm going to type in a W, and that's going to write the file to the disk. W is write. Probably would have been better to be like an S, right, for save, because that's the term that people use these days, but it's not S, it's W for write. So I just wrote the file, and it's called temp file 2.txt because that's what I called the file when I opened VI this time. Okay, so I just saved a file. And the other thing I need to be able to do when I'm done is I have to be able to quit VI. And the way to quit VI is I hit I hit colon and then Q, and that's going to quit. So let me go to my file here. I just did colon W, right? I hit colon, and that took me to X command mode. I hit W to save the file, so the file's saved. The other thing I got to be able to do is quit VI, colon Q, enter, and that quits VI. So so that is it's important to be able to quit when you're done, right? And if I'm in here, sometimes you get kind of lost in VI. You're not quite sure what mode you're in. You might be in X command mode. You might be in insert. Like if I go into insert mode, it's sometimes you get lost a little bit. If you want to get out of VI, just hit escape until, hit escape a couple of times. Make sure you're in VI mode, then hit colon Q, and that's going to get you out. Now, the condition under which it might not get you out right away is if I were to insert, and then if I were to type something into the file, right? I just inserted stuff. Now, if I hit escape and then I hit control or colon Q, it's going to give me this error message. It's going to say no write since last change. And then it says add an exclamation point to override. Okay, so what that means is that I edited the file. Now I'm trying to quit VI without saving the file first. Okay, so what should I do here? Well, I can do one of two things. If I do want to save my changes, then I use the X command W to write the file, right? I could do colon W enter, and that's going to write the file. Then I could do colon Q, and that's going to get me out of VI. If I do not want to save the changes I made, then I do just what it says here, add exclamation to override. Okay, so I'm going to hit my escape key, make sure I'm in the right mode. I'm going to hit colon Q exclamation, and that's going to dump me out of VI without saving the file. All right. And next time we'll come back and talk about search and a couple other things to close up this intro to VI. So, so what questions? Any questions, comments? I'm telling you, if you're ever gonna use a terminal text editor, I encourage you and I challenge you to at least try out VI and learn how to do the basics, right? Learn how to create a file, open a file, write a file, insert text in a file, quit. And if you know the basics, you can do 90% of what you'll ever have to do in a text editor. And a little bit of practice, and you'll know how to do it, and you won't have to fall back on things like LeafPad and Nano and stuff like that. You'll just be a VI user forever. All right, I'm going to wrap up there, and thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week. So thanks.